Hello, Mopar fans. John Cope here from Cope Racing Transmissions with a small little tech video on our reverse manual valve bodies. I'm gonna answer a few questions that a couple people, that's probably the most popular that a lot of people email me or call me about. When you go to our website, you're going to see two different valve bodies. One is a street valve body, and one's a race valve body in reverse pattern. This is just our standard reverse manual valve body, no trans brake or nothing. And I want to talk about this product. The biggest question I get: what's the difference between a street valve body and the race valve body? One's a street valve body, one's for race. But no, here's the difference. I set my street valve bodies up about right around 150 psi. The race valve bodies could go much higher. They can go almost all the way up to 200 depending on the application. So you're going to get exactly the same valve body. It's going to have the same part number, which will be 22X. Is dash 22X is the part number. So a lot of it's going to depend on where this adjustment is. Let me see if I can get that in there. Probably not. Maybe over this way. This is the pressure regulator adjustment. With that green spring, if it's flush, it's a street valve body. If it's in 3 or 4 turns, maybe 5 turns, it's a race valve body, and the pressures are going to be much higher. Also, if you ask when you purchase a valve body, I could incorporate put back in, I should say, the accumulator circuit that allows you to run the spring between the valve body and the accumulator, which will cushion some of the shifts. Some of the race guys have kind of not complained, but had brought to my attention that it's just too hard going in third gear. So that being said, if you're one of those guys where you want a good hard shift, but you think it might be too uncomfortable, then when you order it, either when you order it online or whatever, say, hey, I want the accumulator put in it. I don't do that unless it's under a request. I've had some customers buy the valve body and say, hey, you know what, John, it's just too hard for me. Then I have them send it back and I put it in there. So to save it going back and forth, if you ask for it, then what you can do is you could you can do it 1 or 2 weeks. You can put the blocker rod in the accumulator, and it'll be just as firm as it normally would be. Oh, sorry about that. Or you can leave the accumulator blocker rod out and put the spring in that goes from here to here, the factory spring, and that'll cushion the shifts a little bit. It's not gonna, make it soft. It's just going to cushion. It's still going to be firm, but it might take that uncomfortable feel to some. Now, I got some guys tell me you can't make it hard enough, and that's cool. But if you want it just a little bit soft on the Dash 22X, our reverse manual, that possibility is there. Okay. Both the race version and the street version have Loeb and Apply. What's Loeb and Apply? Loeb and Apply is turning on the low reverse band in first gear. That helps protect the sprag. How does it do that? The band that goes around the low reverse drum goes in the sprag. The sprag is locked in first gear and freewheels in second and third. So by putting the band on, that makes the sprag a little bit stronger because it doesn't have to do all the work. It's a great safety protection also to keep the drums from exploding. Anybody's ever, if you're a Mopar guy, you really know about that. So all the valve buddies are Loeb and Apply. I won't sell one without Loeb and Apply. So that's a little something about that. What else are the questions? When you buy a valve body from me, it's going to include a set of accumulator D-rings. Can I get that in there? These are rubber D-rings, and they're D-rings because if you was to cut that in half, they're shaped like a D. And what it says this in the instructions too. you're going to take the steel sealing rings off your accumulator, and you're simply just going to put these D-rings on there. And what this does is it really helps the accumulator seal almost 100%, where sometimes the fluid can run past this, and it makes for, you're just sealing up one more possible leak. And you got to be careful so you don't roll them like I just did on here. You got to take your fingers and go across like this to make sure that the ring is already all the way seated. And as you can see here, if you can see, nah, too close, that it's not seated all the way. So you just got to work it with your fingers. And there we go, until you get it. And then roll your fingers around so you feel on both the big ring and the small ring that they are seated correctly on the accumulator. Then take your blocker rod, put it in there, put some lube on the D-rings, and then tap it in the case. If you're working in the car, you'll go up. If you're working on the workbench, it'll go down. I always like to have the guys use the 4-2 lever. Is this a 4-2? Yeah. I like to use the 4-2 lever. This particular one's billet for race cars. If you're a street car, then I recommend the 3/8 or the 4-2. Now, you can have a 1,000 horsepower street car, then I recommend you put the 4-2 in there. Just because you drive it on the street doesn't necessarily, you can put a race car motor in a street car and call it a street car. So I recommend the 4-2 lever on extreme street or full race, and a 3/8 for street cars. Also, two things that I like to do on all my reverse manuals is I like to use this really nice CRT thickened band strut. This band strut's thicker than stock, and the factory ones, when you go high pressure, will bend. So this prevents that from bending. And then on the other end, the band anchor. This is a billet band anchor. So you have this on one side of the band, this on the other side of the band plying it, and then the lever pushes, let's see how we do that. Yep, the lever pushes the strut. So these are a couple of good upgrades that you can do on your 727. What other questions do you guys ask me? Let me think here. I think I pretty much covered everything. You should, with any Loeb and Apply valve body, not just mine, you should always run a billet servo kit, and here's why. The factory, sorry about that. The factory piston is 2-piece, and it's cast aluminum. And they always have a tendency of cracking right in here under high pressure. And because it has a weak spring, a lot of times they'll cock in the bore. So this is a 1-piece design, and so there's no possibility of it leaking through here, and will hold up to the high pressure of the valve body. The spring is pretty stout, and the reason for this is it's going to keep the piston from cocking in the bore, and it's also, when you shift from first to second, the servo goes from being on, applied, to shutting off for the second gear shift. This spring is much stronger and will shut the servo off much quicker on the 1-2 shift. So with Loeb and Apply, the band's on, and then we want it to shut it off quick. This spring does that. Then this retainer, the spring retainer, is twice as thick as stock. And the reason why is because a lot of times you'll get the heavy duty spring, and if you put this on there, it'll just blow right out. If any of you guys done the Transco TF-2 or TF-3 kits, they give you a monster spring like this, but they don't give you a retainer. So if you want to purchase the retainer separately, you can do so. We sell them separately. So I touched, I think, on everything. The D-rings, the accumulator blocker rod, and this beautiful valve body. Huh? Yeah. All right, guys. Well, hopefully they're going to open up the racetrack soon. Everything's still closed here in Indiana, and you can go shopping at Walmart with 1,000 other people, but you can't go to church. or you can't go drag racing, or you can't go to the beach. What they're doing is crazy. So stay safe, stay healthy, go Mopar. We'll see you later.